My name is Alex Takács. I'm a director from Los Angeles, and we're here with Canal 180 for Director ID. I've got all these old notebooks here that cover 15 years of music videos, treatments. I think what I love most about making music videos is, especially if the songs have lyrics, is that you're reacting to someone's highly distilled poetry that was probably percolating for months or even years. So there's so much energy there to work with. It's not a vacuum. It's more like a conversation or a chemical reaction. Water or bodies of water appear in all my work. It's not really intentional, but I think water easily reflects an emotional state. The forest fire, I think, is very much part of California. We're sort of sandwiched between these two extremes. The ocean being connected to some kind of wholeness that is fundamentally unattainable, and the fire being an encounter with time passing and mortality. Believer in location scouting being part of the creative process. And if it's possible, I'll try to visit a location at least 3 times. You have to sit in it and absorb it and let it speak to you and sort of let its unique characteristics have a chance to mingle with all the preconceived ideas that you brought with you. I did this interconnected trilogy of videos for Sam Dew's album, Moonlight Fools. It's about these lonely characters sort of spending an evening thinking about each other. And the question I had was, do our thoughts and feelings really belong to us? Or are we more like an antenna receiving signals from somewhere else or someone else? And maybe there are even messengers and go-betweens on the threshold with their own struggles. I think music videos are kind of a weird hybrid medium. I've always felt that they should be closer to music than to more traditional film, more about atmosphere and feeling than plot or logic. On Vynehall video, my goal was to create ambient images that felt more like an instrument in the arrangement of the music rather than this overpowering narrative element, trying to meet the music on a formal level. I imagine the shots as these little windows into the past, like a single heightened moment or a daydream that unfolds in an interesting way, kind of like a Clarice Lispector story. And suddenly our perspective gets bigger and bigger, and we're kind of floating around, our eyes kind of traveling all over the place and spending time with different characters in different places. Dead Crush was interesting because it started with a complete piece of choreography that was designed before I came onto the project, and my job was to create a narrative around it. Member chose a dead crush. It was intentionally very literal with these stilted movements, the kinds of details a computer would remember about a person and their life, kind of like a moving encyclopedia entry. To add my own spin, I started thinking about light and holograms, a virtual database. When it comes to science fiction, I'm really drawn to the idea of technological decay and breakdown, introducing entropy and irrationality into a system. I think when death is introduced to something inanimate, in a way, that's what finally gives it life. The Tibetan Book of the Dead talks about the Bardau, which is an intermediate state between death and rebirth, lasts up to 49 days. The first thing you encounter here is called the clear light of ultimate reality. But if you don't recognize it and turn away from it, you begin to encounter these increasingly symbolic and karmic projections. Some are wrathful and some are peaceful, but how you behave and react to these beings will determine what comes next. Japanese Butoh was an influence. You could consider it a dance that moves between the world of the living and the dead. But it was actually Steve Ellison, Flylow, who wanted to incorporate more contemporary styles. So it was a very interesting hybrid style that emerged. Where we shot underneath the Imperial Highway, it was just an abandoned lot. We didn't know who owned it. The city didn't claim it. There was this giant 3-ton concrete barrier blocking the gate. And there was no way to get to permit it properly. And so my dad had this friend with a tow truck, and we came down here in the middle of the day, with like cops driving by. We chained the barrier, drove up onto the sidewalk. He hits the gas, the tow truck is like screeching, the tires are smoking, but the barrier moved, and we opened the gate. And then we came back that night and shot the video.
I wake up alone, with only daylight between us. Last night the world was beneath us. Tonight comes too long. Were we torn apart by the break of day? You're more than I can believe.
The second XX video was more noir-inspired, set in Los Angeles. When I first heard them in high school, I thought they were an LA band. Their music gives me this feeling of low-density industrial sprawl late at night. And there's a hint of surf guitar that makes me think of palm trees.
Come realize, why do I refuse you?
Fiction also started with a very simple concept that came from the band. but I wanted the aesthetics to serve a slightly more narrative purpose. I feel like if you don't reinterpret things through your own lens, it can be very difficult to guide the process as a director. The title made me think of the Borges short stories, kind of like a dream journey. I mixed that with a little bit of mid-century Americana in the Hollywood Hills, a moment in the jungle, and then this light from the moon.